Okay, so how did Miles Standish get his sword? We just read it, remember? He helped save a sword maker and his daughter. So the sword maker presented him with a sword that was very old, very ancient, with an ancient language on it. And what did he name his sword? That's right, Gideon. Okay. We're going to keep reading, called Preparing, the next chapter, Preparing for the Journey. And I think I'll show you a picture right now. Here's Preparing for the Journey. The pilgrims began having to get things ready. What does it look like they're doing? What is the lady doing down here? Well, that's a butter churn. So she's making food, butter and cheese that they're going to store and take with them. What did they have to do? Put things in big barrels that would be safe from getting wet, from water. They're having to, let's see what else they're doing. Let's see what the words say. 2 men bring a cask on board. Ooh, yes. So if it were a cask, or if it is a cask, it's going to be full of liquid. So it might have been malt beer, might have been something else that they had to drink. Probably wouldn't be milk because it wouldn't stay fresh. It had to be something that could keep for a while. Okay, let's read. Preparing for the journey. That spring brought very busy days to the pilgrims of Leiden. Those who were going to America had many things to prepare, and those who stayed behind were glad to help them get ready. They must have plenty of cloth made, for there would be no time to weave more until their new homes were built. It would be a cold winter by that time, and they must have warm jackets and dresses and cloaks. So, went the spinning wheels from morning till night, and click, click, clack, clack, click, click, clack, clack, went the big looms, as the flying shuttle wove the gray yarn into cloth. You'll have to look up a picture of a loom. I wish I had one in here. There's lots of yarn or string strung on a bar at the top and a bar at the bottom. And you take the shuttle and you weave in and out and in and out. We haven't had a chance to weave. Maybe I'll show us a video or show you guys how to do a weaving next week. We've woven a little bit of paper, but so you can get an idea what weaving was like. And they had to make their own cloth. They couldn't go down to Joann Fabric or to the fabric store like I go buy fabric to make quilts. You had to make your own material. And you certainly couldn't buy pre-bought things. I mean, maybe the richest people could, because somebody would make it by hand and then they would sell it to somebody else. So the kings and queens and very important wealthy people would have someone else make it for them. But all the normal people had to make it themselves. Okay. Far into the night, the tired women stitched with busy fingers. In those days, all the sewing must be done by hand, and it took much time and much patient labor to make a garment. There was plenty of work for the children as well as for the elders. Even tiny hands could hold the skein while Mother wound the yarn into a ball. A skein is a ball of yarn or something that they started to wrap the yarn around. And you should have seen the dozens of thick, warm mittens and stockings that were knit by little hands that summer. The pilgrims could not take any cows with them, so in every cottage there were small tubs being packed with sweet yellow butter to be taken to the new homes across the sea. It would take them many weeks to cross the ocean, and much food would be needed for the journey. They could not raise more grain until the next summer, so they must take enough to last them all winter. With the money the pilgrims had given him, Elder Brewster had bought a small ship in Holland. It was called the Speedwell. and it now waited for them in Delfshaven, about 24 miles away. If you had been in Leiden one morning late in July, you might have seen the Pilgrims loading the canal boats which would carry them to Delfshaven. Almost before it was light that morning, the men began to carry things upon the boats. Their kind Dutch neighbors worked as busily as they did, helping to carry the heavy boxes of ship bread, salted meats, and dried fruits. That would have been in one of those casks. Salted meats, maybe fish that had been salted and preserved, or other kinds of meats, and they would have sealed it in one of those casks, one of the big barrels. There were barrels and barrels of meal and other barrels holding grain for seed. There were great sacks of beans, dried peas, and vegetables, but at last the boats were loaded. The Pilgrims had many friends in England who they thought would like to go to America with them. So Elder Brewster had gone to England to see them and to arrange for a ship to carry them all across the sea. Remember what sea or what ocean they're going to have to go across? From England over to North America, or maybe I should do it this way. Let's see. From England across the sea to North America, the Atlantic Ocean. They're going to cross the Atlantic. I'm going to do a geography video review for us to remember all of our continents, all of our oceans. We'll sing about North America. That's coming up. Let's see. He was gone several weeks, and when he returned, he found the Pilgrims were ready for the journey. Each family could take only a few of the most needful things. There would not be room on the ship for all of their goods or all of the items they possessed, so they would take only such things as they could not make themselves when they arrived. The beautiful china plates and cups which they had bought in Holland must be left, for they would be easily broken. Their old pewter dishes, pewter is a type of metal. Some of you may have some stainless steel cups, or like Miss Dee Dee's cups that we get water out of the Berkey sometimes, that silver. It's kind of like pewter. If you have kind of a thick, heavy aluminum pan that your mom cooks in the cooks in the oven, uses to bake things, it's kind of like that. But it can be molded and pounded and melted, heated, and bent a different direction. Their old pewter dishes would last much longer, and they would look very well when they were scoured bright with sand. They would take their silver spoons and the steel knives they had brought with them from England. The old brass candlesticks, the spinning wheels, and the great copper kettles must have a place in the boat. I'm going to read this to you. While the Pilgrims were worried that their children were losing their English heritage growing up in Holland, there was another important motivation for the Pilgrims' desire to leave Holland. The 12 years' truce between Spain and Holland was coming to an end in 1621. That means Spain and Holland had been in a war, but they agreed and signed a truce that said we won't fight each other anymore for 12 years. Well, it was about to come to an end. Already the Dutch were preparing for war. The Pilgrim fathers knew their sons would be required to serve in the Dutch military if they chose to stay in Holland. So they thought, nope, it's time. This is God's timing for us to leave, our time to leave, so that we can be ready and not have to get stuck in Holland fighting for them. Okay, I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions. Does anybody remember the name of the ship? They were going to sail from Holland to England. Does anybody remember the name of the ship? The Speedwell. That's right. Let's see, can you think of what the women were busy making? For those who would be going to America, what were they busy making? clothes, fabric, material. What else were they busy making in the butter churns? Butter and cheese, that's right. What were some of the foods they had to pack in the barrels? Dried meats. What else? Maybe dried fish, grain, flour, and seed for them to plant when they got there. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to ask you. Okay, I think that's all for right now for that section. All right, let's keep going. Actually, I think I might stop with this for today. Okay, bye.